Well, welcome to Christian Answers. This is Pastor Jeff Short. Glad to have you along today. Today we're going to be looking at the topic of worship music. We're going to be analyzing a song that I have been hearing lately in churches, mega churches, and different churches, and it's called Together. It is written by Kirk Franklin and Ran Jackson. And it's being sung by For King and Country, the music group, Tory Kelly and Kirk Franklin. They have put out a music video. And now this song is being sung in churches all over the country and all over the world. It was written and created during the COVID-19 lockdown, where people are isolated, they're in their homes, and they're trying to deal with all of the inconveniences of this epidemic and all of the social unrest happening in our country. And so these musicians decided to come together and address these issues with a song. And so this is the result. It's called Together. Now, what I want to do today is I want to look at whether this is really an appropriate worship song or not. And I want to question that it's appropriate because it's got some very questionable lyrics in the content of this song. And we have to ask ourselves, all songs that are written and are catchy and are nice to sing, they're not appropriate for worship, but they may be performance-oriented songs. There are songs that a soloist will sing that the whole congregation might not sing. There are songs that are sung that maybe a music group could sing, but not for the whole congregation. But the context in which I've seen this song being put forth is that everyone in the congregation is invited to sing the lyrics along with the worship leaders. And I was at a large megachurch, and I was singing along with them. And all of a sudden, I began to realize that, hey, there are words in the song that are not appropriate Christian words to be sung in a Christian worship setting. And what am I talking about? Well, one of the lines in this song, Together, this COVID-19 lockdown music response, is this, and I quote, "And if we fall, we all fall together." And this is repeated a number of times in the song. If we fall, we all fall together. When we rise, we will rise together. Okay, so what's wrong with that? Well, I'm going to get into what's wrong with it, because within the Christian context, within a theological context, within the biblical context, within a church context, when you start talking about fall and the fall and a fall, that is not something good. That is not something positive. That is not something that we want to do together, because that's a negative. And that is a spiritual negative. That is usually equated with sin in the Christian context. So again, like I said, if you're performing in front of, say, like an American Idol television audience and you play this song, it would be more appropriate because you're not within the confines of a church. You're not in a Christian context. You're not in a worship context. And so the words take on a more general meaning. But when you're in the context of a Christian congregation and a Christian gathering, and you use the word fall, and then you say, we're going to fall together if we fall, there has to be some very careful explanation as to what that means, because it really doesn't have a very good meaning in Christianity. And to have people in the congregation, and sometimes mega churches, thousands of people singing that line, is just leading them in a wrong direction. And I'm surprised that the worship leadership and the general leadership of the church, the gatekeepers, spiritual shepherds of the flock, didn't catch this and objected and said, look, we either have to change the lyrics here or we have to omit this song from our list of worship songs. After all, there are lots of songs we can sing. But let me just get into the lyrics. You can understand the context of this. This is supposed to be sort of an anthem for responding to the COVID-19 lockdown, isolation. People are isolated. They've had to delay marriages. They can't relate to their friends. They can't go places. It feels a little discouraging. And so this song is supposed to be an anthem for those who are locked down, discouraged, to sort of encourage them to stay with it. We're all in this thing together, which is not a bad concept at all, which is a good concept. We're in this together. Let's hang together. Let's stay together. Let's unite, unify. All good themes. And there are ways to communicate that, and there are ways to sing that. But this song, as I'll show you, fails to do that, and it's not a really good song for the congregation, in my opinion, to be singing, and I'll explain why in addition to what I've already said. So let's go through the first part of the words of this song, and I'll show you why the context, why they're saying if we fall, we'll fall together, and you'll understand the context, but still, it's not good enough to really bring into the church and want people to sing from the pews. So let's get into the lyrics. Here we go. Quote, "This is for the busted hearts. This is for the question marks. This is for the outcast soul, lost control, no one knows. Sing it for the can't go back. Sing it for the broken past. Sing it for the just found out. Life is now upside down." So you can kind of get the theme. We're in this COVID lockdown. It's changed everything. A lot of people out of work. A lot of people can't go here, there. They can't see their relatives. They can't go to their funerals of their loved ones who've died. It's all upside down. And yes, that makes sense. And then it says, if you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you're feeling alone and don't understand, if you're fighting in the fight of your life, then stand. We're going to make it through this hand in hand. And here's where the problem line starts. And if we fall, we all fall together. This is for the second chance. This is for the new romance. Sing it for the loved in vain overcame. It's not too late. Okay, so one of the things that the group that was singing this commented was that they kept hearing of people who were unable to carry on relationships. This interfered with people dating relationships, marriage relationships, because they maybe newly engaged people. They can't hold marriages, and so they had to put their marriage on delay and so forth. A lot of problems. Okay, that makes sense. But then here's the line again. And if we fall together. When we rise together. So the attempt is to try to be unified. Okay, we're in this together. We're going to get through this together. Don't give up hope. We're going to hang together. Let's unify. Let's unite. Okay, that's a good idea. But you don't use the image of if we fall together. Now, why don't you do that? Well, because within the Christian context, there is a history. There is meaning to the word fall. And it's all bad. It's all bad. And it connotes and it communicates the wrong theological message. And theology matters because the way we think about God and the way we think about life and we think about sin and we think about the Christian life, it all counts and it all matters. This line is fraught with all kinds of problems. Okay, the first, fall as a word is loaded with theological meaning in Christianity. If you didn't know that already, you should know that. And pastors who let their worship teams sing this song should know that. And worship leaders who are mature in the faith and have been Christians for a while and have a eye for theological truth versus theological error should already know you don't use these words, throw around words like the fall, a fall, or fall carelessly as if there's no context. There is a context. Christianity has a history. There is a teaching, and it involves all kinds of concepts and words. And you can't just take a word that has a lot of meaning in Christianity and just use it in a popular song and think, oh, well, I'm just going to use it this way. Oh, you can't do that because you confuse people. Or worse, you lead them astray. So again, this song could be a performance song. It could be a soloist song. It could be a group song where the people are singing from the front of the church. But when you ask the congregation to join in and sing the words, you had better make sure that those words actually are theologically correct and biblically consistent, or else you're going to lead them astray. Okay, the word fall in the Bible from the very beginning is a bad word. Adam and Eve fell into sin. Eve ate from the forbidden fruit. She disobeyed God. She defied the command of God. She fell. She experienced a fall into original sin. And then Adam came along and he experienced a fall. He fell into original sin. So they both together, in a sense, fell. And in that sense, they did fall together, but it's not a good thing. They were united in their sin, but that's not a good thing. And that's not what we need to strive to do. We don't want to communicate at all that if somebody's falling into sin, well, we'll be there with you because we're doing everything together. No, that is a bad concept. If somebody is falling into sin, you don't go over there and fall into the same sin. And we actually have warnings in the scripture. If you think you stand, take heed lest you fall. If you think you're above any temptation that somebody else has fallen into, you better be careful because you can fall into that just as easily. So fall from the very beginning of the pages of the Old Testament means bad falling into sin. But even before that, there was the fall of Satan, the fallen angel who rebelled against God and sinned in his heart and said he wanted to be like God. And so he rebelled against God and he fell and he led lots of angels with him. Now they're called demons, and now Satan is called the devil. Lucifer is called the devil. So again, a fall. This is bad. This is a bad thing. You might have even heard Satan talk to the angels as he was trying to recruit them away from God, say, hey, let's stand together. If we fall together. So this line is terrible. It's awful. And anyone who's singing this in a Christian context should really think about it and say, wait a minute, is this appropriate? I think you'll conclude like I do, that this is not an appropriate worship lyric. And we have so many good songs, we don't have to turn to this song. It's not like this song is the only worship song we can sing. There are all kinds of good songs, and there are also good songs that are written during the lockdown. I think the song, The Blessing, that's sung, I think it's Corey Asbury wrote it, and Carrie Job sang along with it. There's a duet. Beautiful song, really good lyrics. Comes straight from the Bible. The Lord bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Very good. And there's harmony and excellent worship song. And it was written during the lockdown. So it's not like we don't have worship songs that we can sing. We don't need to be scraping the bottom of the barrel to try to find anything. We have all kinds of worship songs, and we could also go to the standard hymns, which are in many ways even better. But we won't get into that. I think there's room in the church for both the praise choruses and the traditional hymns. But to say that if we fall, we all fall together is inappropriate within the Christian biblical context. The fall or falling into sin is a very common expression in Christianity, and it's to be avoided. So we don't all want to fall together into sin. We want to resist sin. And if one in the group falls into sin, we don't want to stand in unity with that person and fall into sin with them. So yeah, there's a unity that we want to have when we go through this COVID experience, and we want to make it through, but you don't describe it in the words, and if we fall together. Not in the Christian context. Again, you want to rip this away from the church, you want to put it on a stage and perform it at some secular venue. It makes a lot more sense there, but not in the Christian church. So there's not a positive connotation with this line, if we fall together, we will fall together. If we fall, we fall together. Now, can this be reworded? Well, maybe it can be. I don't know. I haven't taken the time to try to figure out whether this can be reworded or not. Maybe it can be rephrased, rewritten. I mean, that is something that needs to be considered. Just because someone wrote something, and remember, this was just written in the last 2 or 3 months. This is a very new song. It's being put out there as this great anthem for the lockdown. But the people that write these songs, like Kirk Franklin and Rand Jackson, who I have no idea who he is, they're not infallible, and they need to be held accountable too. So just because they wrote a song doesn't mean it's okay. And just because anybody writes a song and lyrics doesn't mean it's okay. On this program in the past, I have analyzed a couple other worship songs and raised grave questions about their appropriateness for Christian worship also in the church. And so we need to think in terms of, are these words important and are they appropriate? And if they aren't, then we don't sing those songs. But the question is, can it be reworded? If not, we need to just toss it out. And the reason is we already have so many good worship songs. We have great Christian hymns that have been written in the last 500 years. We have great praise and worship choruses that have been written in the last 50 years. We have a lot of material out there on all kinds of subjects. Some songs better than others, some praise choruses better than others. But as long as they stay within the basic framework of Christianity, we can talk about songs that address God directly, or we can talk about songs that describe an emotion and encourage people in the Christian life. There are all kinds of different worship songs that can be sung. We have hundreds and thousands of these worship songs available to sing in church on Sunday morning. We don't need another one that has questionable lyrics. We don't need to act as if we have to find the latest song written, which is a problem, I think, in some churches. They almost have to feel, well, we can't sing anything that's been written over 2 or 3 years ago because that's just old. If you start thinking that mentality, then yeah, you're going to limit yourself to just the songs that have been written in the last year or so, and you're going to be handicapped and handcuffed yourself to the contemporary music scene. And you need to open up your possibilities. I think a lot of people have latched onto this song because, hey, it deals with topics of COVID-19. It's really relevant, and some of the lyrics are kind of cool. And so we're going to jump into this. Listen to some of the other lyrics of this song. Quote, if you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you're feeling alone and don't understand, if you're fighting in the fight of your life, then stand. We're going to make it through this hand in hand. And if we fall together. Okay. When we rise together. Okay. So again. And so they keep repeating, if we fall together. And the next line is, I got you, my brother. I see you, my sister. When we rise, we will rise together. If we fall together. Take my hand. Help me stand. When we will rise together. Together we are dangerous. Together with our differences. Together we are bolder, braver, stronger. Okay. So, a lot of ambiguity. Again, worship songs need to be clear. They need to be stating a truth, and we need to be able to feel good about singing them. And if there's any misgivings or any doubts as to what this means, or if it's unclear, or if it could be taken in the wrong way, these are signs that the song is not a good worship song. And I think by now you're probably getting the idea that, along with me, that this is not a good worship song. And again, doesn't mean you have to throw the song out. Just make it some kind of performance song, or make it a song that you listen to on your radio or your music center at home, your iPod or whatever, but you don't bring it out for all the congregation so that everybody in the church can sing, if we fall together. Because the connotation is all wrong. It's all wrong. Now, my question is, what pastor, what church leader, what worship leader could give this the green light to sing during the whole church service? I mean, does anybody look at the words to these songs before they sing them? Was there any discussion involved with the members of the music group? Was there anybody, when these songs are being sung at churches, was there anybody in the choir or the music group or the praise and worship band? Did anybody say, well, hey, I don't know about that line. You know, it says, if we fall together. That fall into sin, that's the way it's used in Christianity. If you say so-and-so fell in the church, you're thinking, well, they fell into sin. They fell into disobedience. They fell into rebellion. That's a bad thing. We don't want to have people singing that if we fall together, because that might connotate that, you know, if we're gonna sin, well, let's all sin together. If we're gonna rebel, let's all rebel. It's not a good, clear, definitive teaching, and it's actually very confusing because you're kind of mixing meanings in Christian theology, and it's unnecessary. So why sing it? And my question is, why are pastors, why are church leaders, why are church members, why are the elders of churches, why are staff members, why did this song get as far as it's gotten already? You know, why didn't someone catch this? Why didn't the secretary at the church say, well, wait, that song has the line, if we fall? That's not a godly Christian thing. If we fall together. The fall is a bad thing. The fall of Adam and Eve, the fall of Satan, when David fell into sin with Bathsheba. There's actually a big history in the Christian Bible and in the Christian church and Christian theology about fall. So when you use that word, you are communicating something that has a rich history in the Christian church, and it's a bad thing. So don't try to make falling together as a good thing. That's what people do when they commit adultery in the church. They fall into sin together. There are people in the church who sin, and they sin together. And all of these connotations. So you bring that into the lyrics. Doesn't make for an appropriate Christian worship song. You just want to... Now, if church leaders read through the lyrics and the worship leader read through the lyrics ahead of time and they let this pass, then they're either ignorant of basic Christian teachings and theology, or they're negligent and they're dropping the ball and they're not being good shepherds of the flock, protecting the flock from error and false teaching. And they're not sensitive enough spiritually and morally to realize, hey, this is not what we want to be singing in our church. This is not what we want to be communicating in our church. This is not a lyric that is appropriate for worship in our church, that we want everyone in our church to stand up and sing the words and put the words on a big screen TV and have everybody sing out loud. This is not a lyric that needs to be in our church because it's not giving the right message. Now, we could talk more about this, but I think you kind of get the idea that we have to be more discerning. We have to be more scrutinizing of the songs that are being sung in our churches in what we call worship. Because I have noticed in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but there have been a number of Christian worship songs that I've heard with troubling lyrics. And I'm not talking about just, I didn't care for that line, or I didn't understand that line, or this was a little picky at this point and that point and then no. I'm talking about raising questions about, is this actually saying something that's true or false in the lines of a song? And over the last 3 or 4 years, I've noticed that I've caught myself a couple of times when I've been singing songs and saying, oh, I'll have to think about that. That doesn't sound appropriate for Christian worship. And so I would just tell everyone, be discerning. Don't just assume that the worship leader knows what he's doing, or the pastor or anybody has looked through these lyrics. Be discerning and don't get caught with something that's teaching something false. Well, we'll talk to you next time on Christian Answers. God bless.